Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Now listen to me. Now Lisa and James, they're on a whole nother, they're on relationship type stuff now. And Drew is so thrilled that his solution, his answer, his way of trying to resolve or cope with the pain has resulted in him losing a kidney. It's real stuff, y'all. It's real stuff. And in doing so, the one person that could maybe help him is the one person of two people that he is blaming for this pain. Now, this is what happens. This is not just about prison and when people come to prison, but this situation happened, you know what I'm saying? So I'm talking about it, but I want you to take this into a broader context and apply this to what you might be going through. You feel what I'm saying? This just happens to be a situation that happened under the circumstances that we're dealing with here, okay? Now, he's on his way home, and his father's willing to see if they are a match so that he could donate his kidney to him. He's willing to do that. And he's not willing to do that out of shame or guilt, or at least that's how the story came to me. He wants to help his son. Now, he does feel to blame for what his son did to himself because of what he and Lisa did to him. But he loves his son still. He just didn't go about the best way of showing it. Can we all agree on that? But the problem is this self-destructive behavior that a lot of us continue to exhibit even when we are offered a solution to the problem, clouds our judgment in accepting that help. So when Drew had the opportunity to talk to his father and accept the help that his father was willing to give him once he got home, because the Department of Corrections turned down the possibility of them, doing the transplant while he was still in custody. When he had the opportunity to talk to his pops, he told his pops that he didn't want his kidney. He didn't want it. And that he had real hatred towards his father and Lisa for what they had done to him. Now, on one level, I'm sure all of us can relate to that type of pain. All of us can relate to that type of pain. But then on another level, it's like, boy, you better take that kidney. You better take that kidney. It's almost like cutting your nose off to spite your face. So Lisa, she decides that she needs to, before Drew gets home, she needs to go see him herself and talk to him. So she goes to the prison and she visits Drew, and they're sitting out there in the VG. And for the longest, they just sat there and they stared at each other, and neither one of them knew what to really say. So she leaned forward on the table. She took his hands in hers, and she told him, she said, I love you. I will always love you. And I know that what I did was wrong. I know that. But I did it, and I've fallen in love with your pops. Now, they're holding hands. And Drew is looking at her, right? You got to keep in mind, they're the same age, basically. They're the same age. And his own father had intervened in this relationship, and now she wasn't with Drew. She still had love in her heart for him, but she didn't She wasn't in love with him anymore. She was in love with his father. And instead of let me say this too. A lot of times when something like that is going on with us, again, like I said in the last episode, we claim a lot of the misery. We claim victimhood. We put ourselves in the situation. But what I would hope that all of you listening would think, and what I wish Drew would have thought, was that this wasn't about him. This was about them. He was involved. You understand? They pulled him in something that he should have never been pulled in, because at the end of the day, Lisa could have ended their relationship, should have ended their relationship. You feel what I'm saying? And then moved on with her life. And let's say she would have ended the relationship and then she started messing with James, right? Would it have been okay in that situation? Not necessarily, but it would have been better. Because at the end of the day, people are grown and they make the decisions that they make, right or wrong. And that's about them. And they make those decisions based off of what they've been through in their lives, what they think they need in their lives, not what they think you need in your life. This is some grown folk stuff, and if you ain't ready for this, turn this off. Because this is where it gets real nitty gritty. What she was trying to get Drew to understand was simply this. We made a decision. We did it. I regret it to the extent that it hurt you, but I'm where I want to be. Now, see, everybody can't handle grown folk stuff. But we have to be honest with ourselves and admit all of us have done some things that we wish we would not have done. All of us, and we all want to be forgiven for the things that we've done that we wish we would not have done. Right? We all do. But we are slow, depending on what it's about, to forgive others. But it takes a grown person to really get into that space. So Drew sat there at the table and he's thinking, what do I do? I'm looking at this woman that I used to love and I still have feelings for, but every time I see her, I see pain. I feel pain. And not for her, but for himself. He blames her for the pain that he's feeling. Rightly or wrongly here. But see, he's missing an opportunity here. And we all do this. He's missing an opportunity to grow. Because the pain that he's feeling is growth. See, I've come to accept something, man. I'm going to share something with y'all. I don't know if you believe or not, right? But let's talk about Yahshua Jesus here for just a quick sec. Yahshua Jesus was in the Garden of Yosemite. And he was praying. He was asking the Father to let that cup pass from him, if possible. But if not, let your will be done. Now, when he was doing that, you have to imagine that he knew what was going to happen, right? And he was afraid, not afraid in the sense that like we might be afraid. He just didn't want to go through with that. Is there any other way, is what he was saying, that we can do this? And if not, let's do it. That's what we do when we get afraid. We call out, we cry out. But see, one of the things that I've learned in that lesson, in that story, is that when we're dealing with the Most High, we have to accept how things come to us because he's allowing these things to come our way. Now, don't get it twisted. We're held accountable for the decisions that we make. We have sovereignty over the decisions that we make. So when you make a decision to do something, the fallout is A, B, or C, or whatever, but he's coming with you. And he's going to be on that ride with you. But you're going to have to be accountable for the decisions that you make, meaning whatever comes from that decision is going to be. It's going to be. But when we accept it as it comes and stop trying to change things up in the right way, meaning making right decisions, virtuous decisions, grown folks' decisions, not allowing anger and fear to dictate what we do, not giving advice that will add to a person's pain, but take from it. Not allowing that fear to grow to the point that it makes us do something self-destructive and causes us further harm. Because those decisions that you make when you're hurting, you got to suffer consequences from those too. He chose to deal with the pain that he was feeling from his father and his girlfriend by drinking and smoking. And it caused him kidney failure. He's going to lose a kidney. He has to be held accountable for those decisions. He made that decision. Yeah, it is. Okay, yeah, people will pray and say, oh, God, heal me, heal me. God can do that. He can do that. He can do that. But God also allows things to play out. You understand? Because he wants us to get the lesson. And sometimes it costs us way more than we can understand. And in this situation, that's what we're talking about with Drew. Listen to me, y'all. When he decided that he didn't want his father's help in getting his kidney, that decision has serious ramifications. Because if he loses the one kidney, which he's going to lose, and the other kidney fails, then he's dead. And his father, healthy, is willing to give him one of his healthy kidneys. But he's so angry. He's so hurt that he's refusing. And Lisa is trying to convince him to not do this. To make a better choice, even when you're hurting. Even when you're hurting. So Drew gets out. He comes home. And he sits down with his father. And they're talking. And he tells him, look, please let me do this for you. You can hate me, but let me do this for you. Because if you don't, you're not going to live much longer. Because the other kidney is a little damaged. And he has some liver problems. See, that's what you get drinking that rock gut up in here in the penitentiary. It's not good for you. It's not good for you at all. So quit doing it if that's what you're doing up here and here. Out there too. But anyway. So Drew, he changes his mind and he decides to accept his father's help. See, and that's what happens to us when we get humble and we accept the Most High's help. We come to our senses. And they go into the hospital months later and they do the transplant. And now Drew's going through rehab and all of that and dealing with the pain, and his father's dealing with the pain, and he's helping him, take him back and forth to the hospital. And while he's doing this, guess where he's staying? He's staying in the house with his father and his ex-girlfriend. And they're taking care of him. And he's starting to see what he couldn't see when he was in prison. He's starting to see it. And he starts to feel something in his chest for his father that he hadn't felt in a long time. Now, it's not easy, and it wasn't easy for him. But he saw how much they cared about each other, how that relationship came about. It's a rough one, y'all. It's a rough one. But while they were taking care of him during his rehab, well, actually, she was taking care of both of them during the rehab. He started to see how much she cared about her father and how much she still cared about him. And they went on like that, and they made it work. And they made it work. And a lot of people out there may not understand or agree with how this played out, but I'm going to tell you something. He ended up forgiving his father and his ex-girlfriend. He ended up forgiving them and moving on with his life. And he met somebody new. He met somebody new. But when he met this person that he started to be with, she was all he needed. But he could have met her with that pain and that fear in his heart and messed that up too. Because that's what we do. We take stuff with us to the next relationship. But Drew didn't do that. He didn't do that. He forgave Lisa. He forgave his father, James. And he moved on with his life in a healthy way. In a healthy way. And he's doing just fine. And I wanted to share this story with you. I had a hard time figuring out how to tell this story because it was all over the place. And I'm like, man, don't nobody want to hear that. But it was one of those stories that it'll make you do a gut check. And it'll make you say, what will I accept? What will I not accept? What do I really believe? What do I really believe? And if you really believe something, practice it, people. Practice it. Even in the face of pain that you never would wish on your worst enemy, practice it. Don't set your virtues to the side when something bad happens to you. When something that is not virtuous happens to you, something immoral happens to you, you don't get to set your virtue, you don't get to set your morality to the side to deal with it. If you do that, you are in the mud. You're in the mud. You have to figure out a way to deal with the pain that you're feeling in a way that is virtuous so that you would learn what it is you need to learn and become a better human being. And that's what we're missing. That's why the prisons are full, y'all. That's why the families are broken. We set our morality to the side when something happens to us. We talk all of these things while everything is good, doing right, understanding right and wrong, being virtuous, being moral, and having a moral compass to guide us through the problems that we might be having. But as soon as something happens, doesn't matter what it is, people, but as soon as something happens, put that on the shelf. I'm finna deal with this fool. I'm not going to accept that. That's being disrespectful. Where is your morality now? Where's your virtue now? What is that? Next thing you know, you're in a bad situation. And that bad situation, it's like a set of dominoes. When the first one falls, all kinds of other stuff happens. And the Most High is going to let you face all of it. He's going to go with you. But you're going to have to face all of it because he wants you to get it. He wants you to learn something. And I do too. And that's why I do these shows. And I keep it rough, rugged, and raw. And I keep it gritty. Sometimes it takes me a while to figure out how to tell the story. But I'm going to tell it. And I hope y'all appreciate it. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. And I say peace, y'all.